Write this down. Tithing is God's management training program. God will watch how you manage resources by how you manage his tithe. God don't need no money. He don't need nothing from you. So there's another reason why he asks you for 10%. 10%, God can't use 10%. He owns the whole thing. But he's trying to check if you can manage putting aside something that ain't yours. Now remember, if you've been faithful over another man's property, he'll give you more property of your own. The tithe, for example, is not your property. The Bible says the tithe is the Lord's. So when I say tithe, don't think about money only, okay? It could be you got 10 pairs of shoes, only one of them don't belong to you. He could tell you give that pair of shoes away. Tithing is God's management training. If you cannot stay consistent in disciplining yourself to always be faithful in paying what God says his, God says, I can't trust you with more. Tithing requires accountability. It requires discipline. It requires honesty. It requires diligence, faithfulness, trustworthiness. All of these make up management. I remember God telling the children of Israel in Malachi. He says, look, you guys are thieving from me. They said, how are we thieving from you? He says, in tithe and in offering. He said, you are eating my tithe. And then he says, if you would be faithful and start paying your tithes again, I will open the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing you cannot contain. Then he says, and if you do that, the devourer will not come and take what you have and eat up your crops and destroy your vineyards. In other words, if you don't learn to manage even by just tithing, I'm going to let the devourer take everything. You'll always have nothing. God doesn't want your money. You know, the hardest part of our ministry, as a pastor, I tell you now, is offering time. Boy, I tell you, it's a struggle. Because people think you really want their money. God's trying to do something deep. Do you know why we can't really give and pay tithes? Because we haven't managed our own resources.